Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video I wanted to show you my 7 go-to eye styles. So if you are someone who maybe does the same eye look every day and wants to switch it up, or if you look at a palette and you're unsure how to get the most out of it, then hopefully this video might be for you. So yeah, I've got 7 looks. The first 4 are just using one eyeshadow, and then the other 3 are slightly more bolder, a bit smokier, so you need to add a few more shadows in there. So the palette I picked for today is the Nude Matte palette by Beauty Bay, just because I think a neutral palette would be good to demonstrate this with. Yes, there's no shimmers, but you can obviously add shimmers in. And what I'm also going to show you, as well as the 7 looks, the different colour variations I would do using this palette, to show you that maybe, okay, you can do one eye style, but you can do multiple different shades of the eye style to make it look like different looks almost, and to vary it up. So I hope you find this interesting. And yeah, like I said, the first 4 are just one eyeshadow, so very simple and very easy for every day. Then the last 3 are slightly more smokier. I'm wearing one of them right now. If this sounds like something interesting, then please keep on watching. What I will say is, with any of these, of course, you can add eyeliner to them, so a wing, or just to define the lash line, in the waterline, whatever. I'm not going to do any of that. There is one look where I'm using the shadow as a wing and as an eye definer, but I want to focus on the palette. But if you want to add eyeliner or anything like that, then obviously you can do that. So on to eye style number 1. This will seem very basic and very simple, but it can definitely make a difference to how the eye looks. And it's just taking a shade and popping it through the crease and creating a bit of definition through the crease. And by doing that, it just defines, obviously, the crease line. If you keep your lid bare, it kind of makes it look like you've done more than you have, because it looks like you've got a crease shade. It almost looks like you've done something to the lid, but you haven't, because there's nothing there. And I can think it looks really pretty and very, very natural. And you can make it look quite light, or you can go a bit darker depending on how you feel. So for this one I've used raw sienna through the crease. I'm just taking a little fluffy brush. I probably would go for like a little tapered fluffy brush, just so you can sit it right in the crease and then blend it out. And yeah, it just adds a little definition into the crease. And for me, this palette, Bare Necessities also works for this. Cinnamon, Throwback, Slow Motion and Throw Shade. So there are 6 options of different colour variations I can do with this look. And like I said, it seems very simple, it seems very basic, just pop something in the crease, but I think it does make the look a bit different, very easy for every day. And yeah, so that is eye style number 1. Eye style number 2, again very basic, but it's doing just a wash of colour across the lid. Now actually you can do a wash of colour, or you can make it a bit more intense depending on your preference. So kind of the one and done look, very, very simple version of a smoky eye almost. So yeah, in this look here I'm using the shade Slow Motion, so kind of like a mid-tone brown, and I'm just popping that all over the lid with a fluffy brush. And yeah, it just makes it look like you have done a bit more with your eyes, but you really haven't, and like a soft smoke. And you can run them along the lower lash line. I think in some of these I haven't done the lower lash line, just to kind of, for the ease of taking the makeup on and off with my eyes. But of course you can drag stuff along the lower lash line as well. And for me, in this palette, I can also use Bare Necessities for this. It gives me quite a light finish. Raw Sienna, Cinnamon, Throwback, After Dark and Throw Shade again. So then I've got 7 different colour combinations I can do with this look. You could do Illicit, which is the black, but for me, for an everyday, that would be a bit too stark for me, and I'd save that for more of the really smoky eyes later on. So yeah, those would be the 7 shades I would do this with. And yeah, it makes you look like you've done a lot with your eyes, but you've just put the one shadow on and did a very simple, basic, smoky eye. On to eye style number 3, and this is where we're doing a bit more like the liner situation. So I do, as I've mentioned before, I do like using a shadow to create a wing liner. I think that and gel are the easiest ways to do it. I think it's really pretty, it can really define the lash line, and you can do whatever kind of wing suits you. So you can do one that goes across the whole eye, one that's quite thick, one that's quite thin. For me, I prefer the little flick, and then going just a little bit onto the outer portion of the lash line, but not all the way across. I think it looks really pretty. And then when you add mascara, it just really defines the outer portion of the lash line. That's what I prefer, but obviously you can do whatever style of wing would suit you. and you can, again, you've got multiple colourways. So with this look I have used Throwback, which is quite a nice warm brown, but I could also use Cinnamon, Slow Motion, After Dark, Throw Shade, and I could also use Illicit for this one because I do enjoy a black line here and there, especially going into the winter. I do prefer using a bit more black over browns. But yeah, again, very easy, very simple, and you can mix it up week by week as well. So not only colour combination, like I said, if you're someone who likes to do a variation of wings, then each week you could do a different style of wing. So I've purposely picked 7 looks as well, so I should have said this because I thought one look for each day of the week just to mix things up. But then each week, should you do that, you can mix up the wing style as well, or you can add stuff to the lower lash line, not add stuff to the lower lash line, you know, so you've really got options there as well. On to eye style number 4. So this is the last one of the one shadow looks, the really simple ones, and this is very much just defining the lash line. So all I do is smoke the shadow around the upper portion, or the outer portion of the upper lash line, and then the outer portion of the lower lash line. So again, just redefining the outer portion. Again, it's going to make your eyes look really defined. It's going to make you look like you've put some effort into your eyes, but you really haven't because it's one shadow and it takes 2 seconds. So for the look I'm showing you, I've used the shade After Dark. That's like the darkest of the browns. But for me, in this palette, I can also use Cinnamon. I can also use a Throwback. I can use Slow Motion, Throw Shade, and I can also use Illicit too. Again, really easy one, and it really defines the eyes. And again, it's just one that makes you look like you've put effort into your eyes, but you really haven't, and it's really quick and easy. Okay, now we're heading into the ones where we're going to use a bit more of the multiple shadows, a bit more smokier looks. So it's still, you can, depends on the colour variation, they can be every day, or they can be slightly more bolder for the evening, or whatever you choose to use them for. So I've got 2 variations of the smoky eye. So the first one that I'm going to show you is kind of one that I think would suit most eye shapes because it's the gradient effect of light to dark from inner to outer portion, and I feel like that does suit most eye shapes, and I feel it's probably the easier of the 2 smoky eyes to achieve. So with all these darker, bolder looks, the next 3, I've purposely kept it still simple but only using 3 shadows for each. Obviously you can add more shadows, a bit more dimension, but to just demonstrate I wanted to use it, try and be as simple as I could with it. So for this particular one I used Nothing Else, Throw Shade, and Illicit. So I started off with Throw Shade, which is the grey. I just used this to start working into the crease and smoking onto the outer portion of the lid. So I used quite a light hand in the crease to smoke it out and went a bit heavier on the outer portion to get our base down. Then I went in with Illicit. This is just to really deepen up the outer portion. Try and keep this relatively close to the lash line, try not to bring it into the crease, and obviously go back in with Throw Shade to blend it out. And then the shade Nothing Else is going on the inner portion of the lid to create that gradient from light to dark. So on the lid you should have Nothing Else, then it'll go into Throw Shade, then right at the end it'll be Illicit with Throw Shade in the crease as well. So very easy, simple, smoky eye. And you, again, for this palette I can do it a few different ways. So I can do Cinnamon as my base colour, After Dark to deepen, and Nothing Else to brighten in the inner corner. So I can do Throwback as my base colour, After Dark again to deepen, and then Bare Necessities in the inner corner. Or I can do Slow Motion as my base colour, Illicit as my deepening colour, and then Raw Sienna as my brightening colour. And then again Throwback as my crease colour, After Dark as a deepening colour, and Raw Sienna as my brightening colour. So like I said, 3 shades. So your base shade, which is for the crease and outer portion, then you want to just deepen up the outer portion, and then one to brighten up the lid section, and it will create you a very basic smoky eye. And like I said, I feel like it's one that will suit all eye shapes. Again, you can drag along the lower lash line should you want to. You can add a wing shadow, a wing eyeliner should you want to, add something to the waterline. Like I said, I'm just focusing on the eyeshadow portion for this, but those you've got options as well to do that. So on to look number 6. This is the second variation that I have of a smoky eye, where you go from dark to light, but you start off on the lid. So your lid will be the darkest, and then you blend upwards for the light gradient effect. And again, I'm using 3 shadows for this. So I'm using my dark shadow, a slightly lighter one to blend out, and an even lighter one for the finishing blend. So for the one I'm showing you, I've used After Dark as my lid shade. I just packed it onto the lid relatively close to the lash line, try and make sure I don't bring it into the crease. Then I'm using Cinnamon to kind of blend that out and start going into the crease. And then I finish off the blend with nothing else, just to make sure the whole thing is nice and blended. So yeah, this is one that isn't going to suit every eye shape, because I feel like if you've got sunken in eyes, you definitely don't want to do this, because you don't want to sink them in. You don't want them to look even further back in your eyes as you want to, as they already are maybe. And then maybe some other shapes that don't necessarily suit this. But yeah, and again, you can do a lighter version, you can do a deeper version of this. So the other colour combos I would do for this, so this one, the first one is quite the smoky one. So Illicit as my dark shade, then blend out with Throw Shade, and then finish off with nothing else. I could also do After Dark for a dark brown smoky eye, blend it out with Throwback, and finish off with Raw Sienna. I've got another smoky eye, so I could do Illicit, followed by Slow Motion, and then blend out with Raw Sienna. And the final one that I've got, which is slightly lighter, I can do a Cinnamon across the lid, Bare Necessities to blend that out, and then the last blend would be Nothing Else. So that one creates a much lighter smoky eye. But those are just two different variations of smoky eyes you can do with this palette. And you're just basically flipping it. So one goes from light to dark, from inner to outer, the other goes from dark to light, from lid to kind of crease, brow bone area. Both, I'd say, like I said, the second smoky eye I think slightly trickier to work with, and depending on eye shape might not suit you. The first smoky eye is definitely the more universal one, I'd say, and one that will suit most eye shapes, but you've got two options there. And then the final eye style is a halo eye, which I think can be very pretty, and also would be very pretty if you had shimmers as well, but obviously I'm doing an all matte palette. So the one I've shown you in the video is the one that I'm wearing now. So again, 3 shades, keeping it very simple. Of course you can add more shades, add a bit more depth and dimension, but I wanted to make sure I kept it very simple. So you'll need a shade for kind of, again, what I call the base colour. So it's the one you can add to the outer and inner portion plus through the crease. Then you want one to deepen up slightly, and then you want your brightening shade for like the halo spotlight section. So for my eyes currently, I am wearing Throwback as my shade that's going on the outer and inner portion. And I use like a flat shader brush for this to pat on. And then I'll take like a little tapered blending brush to blend that out and kind of get it through the crease. So I'll smoke that out. Then I'll take a pencil brush, because with the darker shade, I don't want to bring it too far in and I don't want to bring it too far up, so I find a pencil brush gives me the most precision. So for that I'm going in with After Dark, just to deepen up the outer and inner portion, right on the outer and inner portions, and I'll use the fluffy brush to kind of blend it into Throwback. And then for my inner portion I'm using Bare Necessities just to brighten. I'll use a little flat brush for that to apply, and then I'll go back with the fluffy brush just to make sure everything's blended seamlessly together, and then you've got yourself a spotlight eye. And I say this is actually quite a nice soft one. Again, you can do the lower lash line. I haven't with these just because I'm taking them on and off, and I want it to be simple as possible, easy as possible. Plus I actually prefer having nothing on my lower lash line anyway, as you know. But you've got options there as well, but I think a very nice simple smoky eye. But for me in this palette, I can also, I've got 4 other colour combinations I could do this with. So I can use Throw Shade as like my base colour, the outer inner portion through the crease, Illicit to deepen that up, and then Nothing Else as my spotlight eye. I can then do a very simple one, so I can do Raw Sienna as my base colour through the crease and the outer and inner portion, to deepen up using Throwback, and then using Bare Necessity as my brightener middle shade. I can do Slow Motion as my base shade, deepening up with After Dark, and then Raw Sienna as my middle halo shade. And the final one I've got is I can do Bare Necessity as my base shade, Raw Sienna as my deepening shade, and then Nothing Else as my halo spotlight section. Which that one is a very, very light halo version of eye, and actually that one would be very wearable for everyday kind of look. And that's it. Those are my 7 kind of go-to eye styles. There are other obviously eye styles you can go for, some that are a bit more dramatic, like cut creases. You've got your editorial looks. You can do various sort of graphic liners as well with this palette, and then do different shades. But I wanted to do ones that were kind of the go-tos really. And yeah, I hope that was useful and helpful. So obviously I didn't demonstrate all the colour combos in terms of video form. I did do them in pictures, but I just wanted to kind of demonstrate that if you've got a palette and you feel, and it's one that you use all the time, and you feel like you're just running out of ideas, then I'm hoping this will help you maybe come up with use some different eye styles that you haven't used before, but also show you that even if you do the same eye style, you potentially have quite a few colour combinations you can do with the eye style. Obviously it depends on the size of the palette. This is a £9 palette, so it's quite a good one. I can do all eye styles with my 3-pan eye palette, which is the Nude by Nature Rose one. Obviously I couldn't do the different colour combinations, but I could do every single one of those looks using just those 3 shadows, which if you like to see I can do that, and obviously with some of my other palettes I can do it. If you had one with shimmer, then eye style number 2, possibly 3 and 4, and some of the other ones you can definitely use the shimmers in there as well. You could also just do, if you had shimmers, you could just do one where you highlight the inner corner of the eye and then just have mascara. That could look really pretty as well. But I just wanted to do this video. I had this idea. I know necessarily haven't gone quite in depth with each of the eye styles as such, and done kind of a quick demonstration. I just hope it's given you some kind of idea. And if you'd like to see this again with a different palette that I own, let me know. Or if you've got a palette and you are struggling and want me to do this for the palette you've got, let me know, because what I can do is find similar shades in various of my palettes and then create looks that way. Yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. I hope this was an interesting video. I'm a bit worried I've rushed through it actually. But thank you so much for watching. Leave any requests for features down below, and I'll see you all in my next video.